On the morning she agreed to marry a dying billionaire, she thought the worst thing waiting for her was grief. She was wrong. Grief would have been mercy. What waited for her was a throne that breathes, remembers, and chooses its queen. Alara signed the marriage contract with shaking hands. The paper smelled of ink and something metallic like old coins. The lawyer across from her smiled too politely. "Mr. Cale Viremont does not have long," he said softly. "This marriage ensures his estate remains intact. You will be compensated generously." Generously meant enough money to pay for her brother's surgery, enough to stop watching him cough blood into a handkerchief every night, enough to stop counting coins at the kitchen table. She did not ask why a billionaire needed a wife for only a few days. She did not ask why his medical records were sealed. She only asked one question. "Will the money clear immediately?" The lawyer nodded. That was enough. The wedding was quiet, no guests, no music, just a black marble hall inside Cale's cliffside mansion overlooking a gray sea. Cale Viremont stood at the end of the aisle. He did not look dying, pale yes, thin yes, but his eyes were not weak. They were ancient, calculating, watching her like she was not a bride but a solution. His hand was cold when he slid the ring onto her finger. "You are braver than you know," he murmured. It did not sound romantic. It sounded like a warning. That night she expected a hospital bed, machines, maybe oxygen tanks. Instead, she woke up in darkness. Her wrists burned. She opened her eyes and realized she was not in a bedroom. She was seated, upright, bound by chains of black metal that pulsed faintly under her skin. The room was vast, circular, the walls carved with symbols that moved if she stared too long. And beneath her she was not sitting on furniture. She was sitting on a throne, not gold, not wood, something older. Black stone veined with crimson light. It felt warm, alive. It pressed against her spine like it recognized her. The chains were not attached to the room. They were attached to the throne, and the throne was attached to her. Footsteps echoed across the chamber. Cale stepped into the light. He was no longer pale, no longer fragile. His posture was straight, his presence heavy, powerful. His eyes glowed faint silver in the dark. "You're awake," he said calmly. She tried to pull against the chains. They tightened. "What is this?" she demanded, panic cracking her voice. "You said you were dying." "I am," he replied. He walked closer. The throne hummed beneath her. "I am dying," he continued quietly, "because this throne has fed on me for 1,000 years. Her breath caught. "This isn't a kingdom," he said. "It's a prison." The throne pulsed harder. It did not like him speaking. She felt something brush her thoughts. Not a voice, not words, but memory. A woman screaming in ancient robes, blood dripping from a crown, a queen chained like this, consumed. Alara gasped. The throne was not decoration, it was a relic, a living relic, and it was watching her. Cale knelt before her, not like a husband, not like a ruler, like a man exhausted beyond centuries. "I married you," he said softly, "so it would choose again." Her heart pounded. Choose what? A vessel. The throne's crimson veins flared. The chains tightened, and suddenly her mind flooded. Faces, queens, dozens, hundreds, each one sat where she sat, each one chosen, each one drained. "Why me?" she whispered. Cale's eyes did not leave hers. "Because your bloodline survived the first war." She didn't understand. He continued. "The throne consumes weak rulers. It sustains strong ones. I thought it would break you." The throne pulsed violently. Wrong, it was not breaking her. It was listening to her heartbeat, matching it. The chains loosened slightly. Cale saw it. His expression changed, not relief, shock. "That's not possible," he breathed. The throne's whisper sharpened inside her skull. "He is not your husband. He is your chain." Her chest tightened. She looked at Cale. "You knew it would kill me." "Yes." Silence. "I thought it would be quick." Silence. "I thought it would finally free me." There it was, the truth. He didn't marry her to save her. He married her to replace him. The throne pulsed again. But this time it did not pull. It waited. She closed her eyes. The memories came again, but clearer, not just queens dying, queens fighting, queens trying to control it, failing because they feared it. Alara opened her eyes. She did not pull against the chains. She leaned back and let the throne feel her rage, her sacrifice, her desperation when she signed that paper, her refusal to die quietly. The chamber trembled. Cale stood. "Alara," he warned. The throne's chains cracked, not breaking her, breaking for her. The crimson veins turned gold. The whisper changed, not consume, kneel. Kale staggered back. No, he whispered. The throne was not draining her. It was feeding from her command. It recognized something, not fear, authority. She lifted her chin. I am not your vessel, she said aloud. The throne vibrated. I am not your sacrifice. The chains fell from her wrists. Stone cracked under her hands. I am your queen. The chamber exploded with light. Kale dropped to one knee instinctively, not from choice, from force. From ancient law, the throne had chosen. And for the first time in 1,000 years, it had chosen someone who did not break. Alara stood, the black stone throne reshaped behind her like a crown unfolding. Kale looked up slowly, his expression no longer calculating, no longer tired. He looked at her like history had just shifted. You were supposed to free me, he said hoarsely. She stepped down from the throne. You are free, she replied. The chains around his wrists, invisible before, shattered. The throne no longer pulled from him. It no longer needed him. It had found its sovereign. But in the shadows of the chamber, something moved, because ancient relics do not surrender quietly. And outside the mansion walls, other kings felt the shift. A throne had chosen, which meant war was coming. And this time, the throne belonged to her. Kale didn't stand up after he dropped to one knee. Not because he was being polite, because his body couldn't disobey the old rule that just woke up in the stone. Alara felt it like gravity changing. The throne wasn't behind her anymore like furniture. It was behind her like a presence, like a living shadow that finally had a spine. The air in the chamber tasted sharp, like lightning before it hits, and somewhere far above, the mansion creaked as if the whole building had just realized who owned it. You're free, Alara repeated, but her voice sounded different now. Not louder, just heavier, like the room had to listen. Kale's eyes flicked to the marks that had been on his wrists. They were fading, slow, like scars deciding whether they still mattered. He swallowed, and for the first time since she met him, he looked young in the worst way. Not fresh, not innocent, just exposed. You don't get it, he said. Freedom isn't a gift, it's a target. Alara's stomach tightened because she already knew. The shift had rippled. Somewhere outside these walls, something had noticed. Like sharks tasting blood in water. She didn't even know their names yet, but she could feel the attention pressing through the stone. The chamber doors groaned, not opened by hands, opened by fear. The lawyer from earlier, Mr. Finch, stepped into the edge of the light, still in his tidy suit, still holding his briefcase like this was a normal day at the office. His smile was wrong now. It wasn't polite anymore, it was sharp. Congratulations, he said, voice smooth as oil. The relic has chosen, that saves us a lot of paperwork. Alara's pulse hit hard. Us, she asked. Kale's jaw clenched. Finch, he warned. Finch held up his hands, pretending calm. My king, don't look at me like that. You wanted out, you paid for out, she was the price. Alara took one step forward and the floor under her foot warmed as if the stone itself was trying to meet her. Finch's eyes flashed to the throne behind her, a flicker of greed then quickly hidden. This is a sacred succession, Finch continued, and sacred successions have witnesses. He glanced toward the shadows. Come out, she's awake. People emerged from the dark like they'd been standing there the whole time. Not guards, not staff, nobles, vampires dressed like they'd walked out of old portraits and modern boardrooms at the same time. One woman wore a velvet gown with jewelry that looked like it had been stolen from a cathedral. One man wore a perfectly cut coat and smiled like he'd never heard the word no. Their eyes landed on Alara like she was not a person but a headline. It's true, the woman murmured. The throne's light changed. It's a human, the man said, amused. That's messy. Alara felt the throne react to the word human like a blade being sharpened. Kale took a breath as if he was choosing every syllable. Leave, he told them. This is not your chamber, the man laughed softly. It is everyone's chamber, mate, that's the point. That relic doesn't belong to you, it belongs to the blood law. Finch nodded as if he was proud. Exactly. The high houses will want to confirm the vessel. Alara's mouth went dry. Vessel. Again with that word. It was always the same trick. Change a person into a container and suddenly cruelty feels legal. Kale looked at Alara and there was a silent plea there. Not romance. Not even apology, just a brutal fact. Run would be the smart move. But Alara didn't move. She couldn't. Not because she was scared, but because she felt something new inside her chest, like a door had opened, and behind it was a calm rage that didn't shake. She thought of her brother on that hospital bed. She thought of the bills. She thought of every time she had been forced to choose between losing and losing. She didn't come here to die for someone else's freedom. She came here to survive. And if a 1,000-year throne had decided she was its queen, then fine. She would be queen in the only way she knew how, by not begging. "What do you want?" she asked the nobles. The velvet woman tilted her head. "Truth," she purred. "If you are truly chosen, the relic will answer you. The throne judges blood, will, and obedience." Alara's lips curled. "Obedience," the man shrugged. "That's the deal. Queens serve the relic, kings serve the queen. We serve the system. It's been like that since before your little cities existed." Finch stepped closer, careful not to step fully into the strongest light. "It's simple," he said, like he was explaining a mortgage. "You sit, you bind, you accept the dreams, you let it feed. In exchange, your brother lives, your family is protected, your life becomes comfortable." Alara stared at him. "You know about my brother," Finch smiled. "We know everything. That's how we make sure the right girls say yes." Her stomach dropped because she finally saw it. This wasn't a random offer. This wasn't charity. This was a trap built around her desperation. The throne whispered again in her skull, colder now, testing her. "He is not your husband. He is your chain." But now it added something else, like the relic was learning her language. "They are not your masters. They are your thieves." Kale's voice came out rough. "Alara, don't listen to Finch." Finch's eyes flicked to Kale with mild annoyance. "Oh, stop pretending you care. You married her so the relic would move on. You thought she'd be eaten. You thought you'd walk out into daylight and never hear the throne again." Kale didn't deny it. That silence was confession. The velvet woman's smile widened. "So romantic," she said, bored. "We don't have all night. The council is already on its way." Alara's blood chilled. "Council," the man nodded. "Other kings, other territories, they felt the pulse. They'll come to claim, test, or destroy. They won't allow an untrained queen." Finch leaned in, whispering like it was a kindness. "So here's your best option, sweetheart. Submit. Let us guide you. Let us keep you alive." Alara looked at Kale again, and this time she saw something he'd hidden under control. Fear, not for himself, for her, because he knew what the council did to things they couldn't control. Alara turned slowly, facing the throne behind her. It loomed like a black mountain. Its veins still glowed faint gold like sunlight trapped in stone. The dreams it had shown her weren't random horror scenes. They were warnings. Every queen who feared it got consumed. Every queen who tried to bargain got broken. The throne wasn't evil like a person. It was a force, a law, a hunger, but forces could be directed. Laws could be rewritten. And hunger could be chained. Ira placed her hand on the throne's armrest. The stone felt warm, like a heartbeat under her palm. She spoke, not loudly but clearly. "I do not submit to you." The nobles gasped like she'd slapped God. Finch's smile faltered. Kale's breath caught. The throne didn't attack her, it listened. Alara swallowed. "I do not serve you." She felt the room tighten, like the relic was deciding whether to punish that. So she finished the sentence the way her life had taught her to finish hard things. "You serve me. If you chose me, you chose my will, my rules, my mercy, my rage, my terms." The throne's gold pulse flared once, sharp and bright. The chains that had fallen from her wrists rose from the floor like smoke, not to bind her but to wrap around the throne itself, locking into its stone like nails. Finch stumbled back. "No," he hissed, "that's not how it works." Alara's eyes flicked to him. "Then why is it working?" Finch's face hardened. "Because it's feeding on your arrogance. It's seducing you. That relic makes queens feel powerful right before it devours them." Alara took a step toward Finch. The chamber answered her movement. The shadows shifted. The temperature changed. The velvet woman suddenly looked less confident. Kale spoke quietly, urgent. "Alara, the throne is clever. It will try to own you through pride, through love, through revenge. Don't let it." Alara nodded slightly. She understood. The throne wasn't just a chair. It was a story machine. It would offer her every fantasy a broken girl ever wanted. Safety, worship, vengeance. But she wasn't here for fantasies. She was here for her brother, for her own life, for not being used again. The first scream came from above. It echoed down the stairwells like the mansion itself had been stabbed. One of the nobles jerked their head toward the door. "They're here," the man said, suddenly serious. "The council." Another sound followed, heavy doors being ripped open, a deep old voice chanting in a language that made Alara's skin crawl. Finch backed away, quick, panicked now. "We need to move," he snapped. "Get her upstairs, put her in the binding hall. If the council sees she's unstable, they'll execute her and reset the relic." Alara's chest tightened. Reset, like she was a computer, like she was not alive. Cale stepped between Finch and Alara. "Touch her and I'll tear you apart," he said, voice low and lethal. Finch sneered. "You can't, you're not king anymore, you're a released prisoner, and prisoners don't make threats to wardens." He snapped his fingers. Two guards in dark armor rushed forward. Cale moved like a shadow, grabbing one by the throat, slamming him into the stone so hard the wall cracked. But the other guard reached for Alara's arm. Alara didn't dodge, she didn't scream, she simply said one word: "Stop." The sound carried, not loud, absolute. The guard froze mid-motion, eyes wide, body locked. The velvet woman's lips parted in shock. "Command voice," she whispered. "That's impossible so soon." Alara looked at her. "Apparently not." Finch's face turned pale with anger. "She's too strong," he spat. "The relic miscalculated." Alara's eyes narrowed. "No," she said. "You miscalculated." Finch took a step back as if the air itself had teeth. "You think you're clever," he hissed, "but you don't know what you've just invited." The chanting above got louder. The chamber shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. A crack of white light split through the doorway like a blade, and then they arrived. 3 figures stepped into the chamber like the world belonged to them. They were not dressed like modern men. They were dressed like rulers from different centuries forced into one room. One wore a crown of black iron. One wore a long coat embroidered with symbols that made Alara's eyes water if she stared too long. The third was a woman with pale hair and a smile that had never meant kindness in its entire life. Their eyes landed on Alara and the room went still, like even the throne was holding its breath. The iron-crowned king spoke first. "So," he said, voice calm and cruel, "the relic chose a mortal." The pale-haired queen tilted her head at Cale. "And our beloved Cale married her to escape." She smiled wider. "How sweet, how pathetic." Cale's jaw clenched, but he didn't look away. Alara felt his anger like heat beside her. The third figure, the one with the embroidered coat, didn't look at Alara's face. He looked at her ring, the wedding ring, and then he looked at the throne's gold veins. His eyes narrowed. "It isn't consuming her," he murmured, and for the first time something like unease flickered through the council. The iron-crowned king stepped closer. "Girl," he said, "sit, let us hear the relic's verdict." Alara didn't move, she met his gaze. "No." The room cracked with tension. The pale-haired queen laughed softly. "Oh, this is going to be fun." Finch quickly stepped forward, eager. "My lords, she is unstable. She refuses the protocol. She must be restrained before she—" Alara cut him off, voice sharp. "You." Finch froze mid-word. Alara pointed at him. "Tell them why you chose me." Finch's lips trembled, fighting the compulsion. He clenched his jaw. The throne pulsed. Alara's command voice hardened without her raising her volume. "Tell them." Finch's eyes widened in terror as his mouth betrayed him. "Because her brother was dying," he said, voice shaking. "Because we made sure the bills piled up, because desperate women signed faster." Silence. Cale's face went deadly still. Alara felt sick, not surprised, just furious in a quiet way. The council's expressions shifted, not sympathy, interest, a new calculation. The iron-crowned king hummed. "So you baited her." Finch swallowed. "Yes." The pale-haired queen clapped slowly. "Lovely, and you tried to manage her after the choosing." Finch nodded, sweating. "Yes." The embroidered king's voice turned cold. "And you brought us here to reset the relic if needed." Finch whispered, "Yes." The iron-crowned king looked at Finch like he was dirt on a shoe. "You are an idiot," he said softly. Finch blinked. "My lord," the king's eyes flicked to Alara. "You don't bring the council a new queen and expect us to accept your leash. If the relic chose her, she is now the game, not your pawn." Finch's face crumpled. "But I served." The pale-haired queen moved like a knife. 1 second she was beside the king, the next she was behind Finch, her hand around his throat. "You served yourself," she purred, "and you embarrassed us." Finch choked. Alara's stomach turned. She didn't want this, not like this, not slaughter for sport. She stepped forward. "Stop." The pale-haired queen paused, surprised. "Excuse me." Alara's voice stayed even. "Let him go." The queen laughed. You're ordering me? Alara held her gaze. Yes, the throne pulsed gold. The queen's smile faltered as her fingers loosened against her will. Finch dropped, gasping, collapsing on the floor. The council stared at Alara now with something sharper than cruelty, respect mixed with fear. The embroidered king's eyes narrowed. You can command us, he said quietly. Not fully, Alara replied, but enough. She turned to Kale. You said the throne chose me. That means I'm not here to be eaten. I'm not here to be managed. I'm here because this relic wanted a ruler. She looked back at the council, and rulers don't beg. The iron-crowned king's lips curled. Then prove it. The relic chooses by trial, not by speeches. Alara felt the chamber shift as the throne awakened fully. The walls lit with ancient symbols. The air thickened. A test was coming. Kale stepped closer to Alara, voice urgent. Whatever happens next, don't let it show you what you want. It will show you what you crave most. Alara's throat tightened. Like what? Kale's eyes flicked to the surface, to the world above. Like saving your brother without cost. Like punishing everyone who ever used you. Like making me kneel for what I did. Alara's chest hurt because all three hit like truth. The throne pulsed again, eager. It wanted drama. It wanted surrender. It wanted her to lose herself in desire. But Alara's life had trained her for one thing these immortals didn't understand. Doing the hard choice when the easy choice is a lie. The symbols on the wall flared. The chamber darkened. A doorway of light opened in the air like a rip in reality. The iron-crowned king stepped back. Trial begins, he said, almost pleased. Let the relic see if she rules or if she breaks. Kale grabbed Alara's hand, squeezing once. Alara, he whispered. If it shows you Toby, don't. The name hit her like a punch. The doorway widened, and in the light Alara saw a hospital room, her brother pale, breathing shallow, machines, a nurse adjusting a line. And then Toby turned his head, eyes finding hers like he could see through worlds. He whispered, weak. Alara's breath caught, tears burning instantly. The throne's whisper curled around her mind like smoke. One command, one kneel, one surrender, and he lives forever. Alara's knees almost buckled. The temptation was a blade at her throat. The council watched, silent. Kale's face was tight with fear because he knew. This is how queens get eaten, not by violence, by love used as leverage. Alara stared at Toby's face in that vision, and she did the hardest thing she had ever done. She didn't reach for him through the magic. She didn't beg the throne. She didn't trade herself for a miracle. She whispered, shaking but firm, I'm coming for you the human way. I'm not feeding you to a monster. The vision trembled. The throne pushed harder, angry now, trying again. The room shifted. The vision changed. Alara saw herself rich, adored, dressed in jewels, everyone bowing, her brother cured, her enemies broken. It was everything the poor girl in her old kitchen would have sold her soul for. Alara swallowed. That's not real, she said. The throne raged. The chamber shook. Kale's fingers tightened around hers. Alara, he breathed. You're doing it. You're resisting. Alara lifted her chin at the throne itself, not the vision. You want to choose me, she said. Then choose my limits, choose my humanity. Choose my no. The gold veins flared so bright the council shielded their eyes. The trial doorway slammed shut like a fist closing. Silence hit. Heavy, final. The iron-crowned king lowered his arm slowly, staring at Alara with something like disbelief. The embroidered king spoke quietly, almost reverent. She refused the relic's feast. The pale-haired queen's smile was gone. That's never happened. Finch lay on the floor, shaking, whispering, It should have eaten her, it always eats them. Alara took a slow breath. She could feel the throne behind her, calmer now, not satisfied exactly, acknowledging, like a wild animal recognizing a stronger hand. Kale stepped forward. He looked at Alara and something in him changed. It wasn't romance, it wasn't even guilt. It was the raw moment a man realizes he has underestimated the person he tried to use. He sank to both knees, not forced this time, chosen. My queen, he said, voice rough. The words hit the chamber like a new law being written. The council stiffened. They did not like it. They did not like that he said it first. The iron-crowned king's eyes narrowed. Careful, Kale, you are not crowned. You are not, Alara cut him off calmly. He's right, she looked at the council. You came here to control what you fear. You fear a queen who cannot be bought. You fear a throne that chose wrong. She paused, letting it land. But it didn't choose wrong, it chose me. The pale-haired queen took a step forward, voice sweet as poison. Then tell us, little queen, what do you want? Alara's answer came without drama. My brother's surgery funded without strings. Finch's network exposed. Every contract like mine destroyed, and no more women baited with desperation. The council stared like she'd asked for the moon. The iron-crowned king laughed low. You want to change the system? Alara nodded. Yeah, that's the point. The embroidered king studied her, calculating. If we refuse, Alara glanced at the throne. The gold veins pulsed once like a heartbeat ready to become a weapon. Then I will learn how to use what you've all been hoarding, she said quietly. And I will walk into daylight with it. That threat landed like a bomb. Even kings feared daylight as a battlefield. The council went still. Kale rose beside her, still slightly behind, not leading. Alara felt it, the shift. He wasn't her savior, he wasn't her owner, he was her subject, not because she demanded worship, but because the truth had flipped. He had been a prisoner, she had become the key. The pale-haired queen's lips tightened. You're dangerous. Alara shrugged, very plain. So were you for 1,000 years. The iron-crowned king exhaled slowly like he was swallowing pride. Fine, he said. We will negotiate. Alara's eyes stayed steady. Not negotiate, she corrected. Comply. A pause. Then the iron-crowned king nodded once. Comply, he echoed, bitter. Finch let out a broken sob on the floor because he understood now. His plan hadn't freed Kale into a normal life. It had created a queen who would burn every hidden deal he ever made. The council retreated, not defeated in war, but checked by something they didn't plan for. A woman who did not beg, a relic that did not eat her, a king who knelt willingly. When their footsteps faded, the chamber finally felt like it belonged to Alara and Kale alone. The throne behind her hummed calmer, like it was finally resting. Alara turned to Kale. You used me, she said. Kale didn't defend himself. He nodded. Yes. You married me to die in your place. Yes. You thought I'd be consumed. Yes. Alara's eyes stung, not because she wanted revenge, because betrayal is always the sharpest when it's quiet. Kale's voice cracked slightly. But I didn't know you'd fight it. Alara's jaw tightened. That's the thing, isn't it? No one ever thinks the desperate girl will bite back. Kale stepped closer, careful, like he wasn't sure what he was allowed to be anymore. What happens now? He asked. Alara looked up at the ceiling, towards the world above, where her brother still waited, where the hospital still smelled like fear. Now, she said, we fix what you lot broke. She paused, then added, and you're going to help. Not because you owe me romance, because you owe the world something better than your cowardice. Kale nodded like he accepted the judgment. Tell me what to do. Alara breathed out. First, she said, we get Toby safe. Then we torch every contract like mine. Then we make sure the throne never chains another woman again. Kale's eyes flicked to the throne. Can you really control it? Alara placed her palm on the armrest again. The stone warmed under her touch like it was glad. I don't control it by fear, she said. I control it by not feeding it. The throne pulsed gold once like agreement. And that's when Alara understood the final twist of her own story. She didn't become queen because she was special. She became queen because she refused to become a monster's meal, even when the meal promised everything she loved. She didn't win by being stronger than the throne. She won by being stubborn in the one way that mattered. She kept her soul while holding power. That was the rarest thing in any kingdom, human or vampire. If you enjoyed this story and you want more dark romance, savage twists, and kings who kneel when they don't want to, then hit like and subscribe to Vampire Verse right now, because the next story is even wilder. And here's the question of the day. If you were Alara, would you forgive Kale for using you at the start? Yes or no?